Surprise, everybody! ASL is back, and this time, we're doing the wild card match. What's up, Artosis?
Oh,
How you been, man?
tasteless.
It's been a minute.
Oh, it has been a little bit, and welcome back, everybody, to ASL. We are starting ASL 17 off, and it is going to be fantastic, without a doubt. Like, I am truly pumped for this season, Tasteless. Brood War has been going fantastically. We finally got the wild card match to do. Effort will be dropping out, so that's why we're doing this. We're filling his spot, and we have 4 great players that are vying for it.
Yeah, we don't normally get to do this part of the tournament, but we did have time. We also got the clean feed from the VOD, so thank you to AfreecaTV for sending us that. And this is basically a fight to see who's going to squeeze it and get that remaining spot before we start the ASL Season 17.
Yeah, and I'm not really sure who's going to end up taking it down, but again, we do have some great players here. You can see this was the ASL Season 16 bracket, so, you know, Rush, Sulky, and Mini are already seeded into that next round. Effort, of course, dropping out. So that means that we're going to have the round of 8 players. We're going to have JYJ, Hero, Sharp, and Action all fighting tonight for that extra spot.
Yeah, it should be a lot of fun. You know, that was a very fun season 16.
Yeah.
We had a really interesting finals. You know, with the last several seasons, Flash not being present, it's been interesting to see who's come out on top. It's been clear that it's really not clear who is truly ever the best, as each season's been very dynamic, very different. You know, the last 2 finals couldn't have been more opposite from each other. So I'm welcoming this season to see what it's going to look like and who these players are, you know, who's going to be advancing deep as we get further and further along here.
Yeah. Do you have any overall arching predictions for, like, this particular one, Tasis? I mean, we have 4 great players here. Sharp versus JYJ to start, and then Hero versus Action. Do you have someone that you're looking at and saying, you know what, I think this guy's going to take it down?
I think it's a really tough set of players to call, man.
Yeah.
I don't know. If I were to pick one, it would be a roll of the dice. What about you?
I'm leaning a little bit towards Action right now, honestly. Like, I think I feel like Sharp might beat JYJ. He's a pretty good TVT player, but I don't think his Terran versus Zerg is up to the challenge of beating someone like Action in a best of 3 here.
He is a really scary player. And today here with JYJ versus Sharp, JYJ is looking very scary as of late. I think he's really, in the last few years, kind of filled in his role. This guy was always a great player, but I think he's gotten extremely comfortable under the pressure of the leagues like this one, where you're not just playing online. Keep in mind, a lot of StarCraft 1, historically, the big matches were live and in a studio, but especially now, there's so much competitive StarCraft 1. A lot of it is done on the internet. And I think JYJ coming into studios like this one has finally found his voice, so to speak. So I think he's looking very strong. He's performed very well in the past. Sharp has had, I think several years before that, a very good showing. But right now, I think JYJ may be slightly stronger. And it looks like we're actually about to go into our first match, guys. Let's start off the wildcard match of ASL Season 17 with a TVT. Artosis, they waste no time.
We're getting right into it, man. Yeah. People have been waiting for ASL.
We had a lot more to say.
It's been months. We just got to get the games going. But yeah, we're here on Retro in our first match of Terran versus Terran. JYJ, the former champion, the top right. Sharp, I believe he has like the 2nd or 3rd most games in ASL. He's qualified for like all but 1 season, I want to say, if I'm not mistaken. He's going to be in the bottom left. And before we really get into this game, I want to mention that you guys have been fantastic supporting us on the Patreon for ASL. That's patreon.com/ASL English. And now is a great time to sign up as we start another year of ASL here.
That's right. Your support's appreciated. Without you guys, we wouldn't be able to do this. So go check out the Patreon. If you've been meaning to sign up but haven't bothered to, please consider it. And I'm really glad that we get the opportunity to cast this little extra portion that's not normally covered by us, Artosis.
Yeah.
And to start it off with these 2 great players.
Yeah, no, I'm very excited about it. And look at that, ASL TVT top 4. I told you Sharp is really good at this matchup with a third best win rate. Only Flash and Last above him, but JYJ does come in at 4th place. And you were talking how you think JYJ at the beginning is a bit better than Sharp, and I definitely agree with you. I definitely think that JYJ is a bit better. I think he's an unbelievably strong Terran player, but I think for this particular matchup, the amount of times, like, Sharp is such a funny TVT player, man. Like, he shies away from Vulture Wars compared to a lot of other pros. That's not to say that he won't do them, but a lot of times he gets himself a little bit behind, but he's so good at playing from a slight disadvantage in Terran versus Terran with, like, Goliath tank dropship types of plays. He just, I feel like he is ripe here for an upset over JYJ.
I agree. And let's also, whenever I think of Sharp, I'm always thinking about how odd his PVT is on these moments where people can steal his gas. He'll do like everything to stop it, where there are a lot of other Terrans let it happen.
Yeah.
And I feel like he's really the only ASL player who plays like that. But the point I'm trying to get at is that he just approaches a lot of things in the game differently.
Yeah.
Which I think in some ways, when he's really playing up to what he's practiced, it's hard to play against because nobody else really plays like Sharp.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so I think with these two duking it out here, it's going to be fun to see if Sharp kind of brings a little bit of his own flair into it and how exactly JYJ is going to behave and play against it. Now, in this game, we've got a barracks in the middle of the map. This can be used for a little bit of pressure early on. But again, it's not anything too dramatic, like you would see early barracks in the middle of the map and the other matchups.
Yeah. It's like a forward 11 racks where if you happen to find them going for like a command center first or gasless expansion, you can hurt them. Generally, you won't end up killing them with something like this, but it could give you a small advantage. And here you can see that JYJ has only made a single Marine, so he's going to be able to put some pressure on here. And this is actually much more annoying, I think, than it looks. You see, like, one Marine versus 2, and you think, well, it's not that bad. But, man, it's hard to kill those 2 Marines early in the game.
Oh, this is pretty big, actually. I feel like I don't, I've casted almost everything in Brood War, but I don't normally get to cast the Bunker Rush versus the Command Center, but here we are. Now, the Vulture's out. The Vulture kills the Marines extremely quickly. He actually kills the SCV and the Marine just after that. And so that's going to end that. And thank God for JYJ's sake, because had he been forced to cancel the Command Center, remember, you would have lost 100 minerals canceling that. So, yeah, that would have been devastating.
And build time, too. If you look at that build time, you're going to actually end up being down. He lost an SCV, and he's going to end up being down like multiple SCVs that he wasn't able to build. And when the barracks gets there, which it already is, there's no Marines. Right? He already killed the Marine that JYJ had made. So basically, until you go Goliaths, that thing's going to be floating around. This is like, it doesn't look like it's that much, but honestly, something like that really changes the trajectory of this game.
So we've got the barracks floating in now. A little bit of scouting here. They're in cross spawns, and I wanted to talk about this a little bit earlier here, but I've found this map, the more I've played on it, the more I appreciate how actually there isn't as much space in the middle of the map as I think I initially perceived in our earlier casts. I think maybe for you too, Tastosis, we kind of talked about how this was a big opening in the middle. And, I mean, the reality is there isn't that much as far as obstructions goes, just the middle minerals. By the way, just real quick here, we've got the Vultures engaging each other. It looks like the targeting is pretty solid here for JYJ, so he can snowball this damage, and this is going to force JYJ to lose this fight. Once the Vultures are attacking, as long as you've got moving shot going, you can, as you can see there, get the kill. But, this map, the reality is that the bridges that connect the third bases and naturals and all that, they take up a lot of space. So the middle's actually very tight. And in TVT, if you get a siege tank line set up there, you can really cut off a lot of the map.
Yeah, that's for sure. Those mineral patches make a gigantic difference. I would say in Terran versus Terran and Terran versus Protoss specifically, where it doesn't look like it's that big, but it divides into lanes, and you can shut them down relatively quickly. And definitely something I think we can see in Terran versus Terran, that new map or newer map, La Campanella as well, kind of similar, where those just a few mineral patches in the middle really change how battles go down.
A lot of vultures being accumulated over here for Sharp. Notice that there's a factory that's being made above the natural command center. So from Sharp's perspective, it looks like it's 3 factory versus 3 factory. In fact, JYJ has snuck out a 4th factory, which means there's going to be additional vultures coming out. We saw that SCVs are taking off the gas in the main. So a little bit of sleight of hand here from JYJ. I'm interested in seeing if this could end up just, punishing Sharp heavily if he miscalculates where he's at as far as vulture production.
Yeah, and that is why you build it at that natural, of course, as well. That's like a kind of a sneaky play, but if you can tell how many factories they have, you know how many vultures they have. So, like, for instance, if you have 3 factories as Sharp and you see 4 from your opponent, you either go 4 factories, 5 factories, or you go siege tanks and you don't move. Like you have to really make a choice, because vulture wars are this is like one of the silliest things in Terran versus Terran. It makes it almost like a Zerg versus Zerg, where it's like, yeah, well, who has more of those? But at a certain point, they start to lose power because they won't all shoot at once, right? So it's like, okay, we're actually getting very close to that number. It's somewhere around 20. Where, like, no matter what you do, the back row isn't going to shoot. So that, like, buys your opponent extra time, even if you have more vultures than him.
Yeah, it's a little bit like roaches sometimes in StarCraft 2, where once you get enough of them, the ones in the back don't really do anything. So it doesn't really make a whole lot of sense to just keep massing them, especially if you're in any kind of area that's bottlenecked. And this whole map is just a series of bottlenecked off positions from the bigger kind of flatland area in the middle.
And one thing to mention, if vultures are sitting still in like a reasonable line, a reasonable clump, and you attack move into them, you will lose as the attack mover, right? Because you have to move into range, and the other vultures are going to get the first volley. So you have to be really careful in these positions. You have to make sure either that you're overwhelming or you're coming in at the right angle, that you have the right spread. Maybe it's just that you have some higher quality units like these Goliaths. And this is actually something really funny from Sharp. When he hits a Vulture War, he ends up on Vulture Goliath oftentimes, and he will walk around with that. I don't know how to explain. He plays TVT really different from all the other pros, honestly.
Yeah, he definitely does. This barracks, by the way, is going to burn down. 1 HP and then nothing. And we don't have a third base being taken right away here. We do have the push coming out from JYJ. It's not the hardest thing in the world with Tank Goliath to just trust your... we have a breakdancing vulture here just outside of us. But it's okay to trust your Tank and Goliath to probably shoot down the mines, but you got to be careful, because when things are this clumped up, a mine that could connect and touch some of these vultures would be devastating. Our observer, by the way, is very excited by this. I can tell they don't have the normal ASL observer watching this right now. There's way too much attention being given. Do you see this vulture? This is insane. All right.
Yeah, I've seen that plenty of times. But yeah, he is starting to move out, and he does utilize those scans, as you suggested, clearing a lot of mines here in the middle. And, Sharp has already kind of switched his tech up. JYJ taking his third base there over at 3 o'clock. Still moving a lot of vultures around the center. He has his own Goliath kind of going up there. And it looks like this base, yeah, it's going to be canceled out. A good denial there by Sharp.
Yeah, nicely done. Very cost-efficient denial there, too. We're just seeing this build up into a point of tension here in the middle of the map. A scan comes down and sees that these vultures are going to retreat. It seems like JYJ, if he could set up siege up, would have a really good position over here.
Yeah.
You don't need to be that close to their exit point here, where you see the yellow road markings on the ground here, right where these tanks are. If you can get in siege tank range of that, you've pretty much shut out their movement all through the middle of the map.
Yeah. Yeah, this is already a really powerful position here for JYJ. Like, I'm very worried for Sharp, but because I've seen so many Sharp Terran versus Terrans, I know not to worry. I've never seen this man have map control against another Terran pro at the beginning of the game. I've literally never seen it. He never wins the Vulture War.
It's very true. He's always getting contained, and then he plays a pretty fierce game where he's behind in the mid-game and can usually come back as things get further along. Now, we do have a bunch of vultures that are going to snake around up into the 12 o'clock position, and it's hard to say who's going to take this. I mean, the 2 tanks sieging up here are going to be pretty devastating to the vultures, and so he kills the SCV. He's going to lose quite a bit of vultures in the process, but slowing that down is definitely going to be worthwhile. Also, at 9 o'clock, we see a command center has already been set up. A scanner is being produced. And it's pretty neck and neck, but most importantly, the center of the map is being controlled by JYJ, and that's extremely important, especially on this map. In almost any matchup, this map is brutal. If you can't get out through the middle, it's very annoying to try to go around the small high ground ramps and low ground ramps that eventually allow you to spill onto the other parts of the map.
Oh, absolutely. And it's so funny watching Sharp walk almost his entire army up those little ramps and down those little ramps and around this other side to get out into the middle. So instead of the area where he got contained, he's like, nah, screw it, man. We go up here, and now I'm popping out over here. Now, the problem with that is JYJ still controls most of the middle of the map. And also, don't forget, like, if Sharp wants to reinforce those tanks, that's a really long distance. That's actually complicated to reinforce those, whereas every unit JYJ has come out, he's going to have there. So I feel like JYJ is going to have a timing to break those tanks. And honestly, if he breaks those tanks, I'm giving him game 1.
Yeah, I think you're probably right about that. Each position here, by the way, on this map, you can only expand in the ring around the edges here. You could theoretically take the middle as JYJ, but it's mineral only. Mineral only is just not that valuable, TVT, compared to gas, which really allows you to get tanks, wraiths. Obviously, Goliaths cost a little bit of gas, excuse me. And now we see Sharp, by the way. He's actually, I'm sorry, I thought he was going to expand to the bottom. I misread the blips I saw on the minimap. He's actually already growing into the top left here. We see that natural being taken over there as well.
Yeah, it kind of makes sense when you think about it. He has a lot of tanks up there already, and, I mean, he's kind of divided the map in half mostly, and that's one of the more important things is can you get half of the map all set for yourself. Now, a couple wraiths are already out here for JYJ. Love to see that. He's actually going into Cloak as well, and he is going to be able to shut down that drop, but, you know, Sharp, you lose a dropship, but you kill this many tanks, you cost some lost mining time, and you see your opponents going Wraith. It's really not that bad a deal for Sharp.
Here come those SCVs, by the way. Looks like he might have sent that a little bit too soon, but not too much damage distributed onto them there. And I'm basically eyeing the 3 o'clock spot here. I want to see when JYJ can take that, because he actually doesn't have anywhere else he can expand without conflict.
Yeah.
I mean, he can't expand towards the upper left because Sharp's already occupying that. He can't expand to the center right yet because I think there's mines and maybe a tank or a vulture there. But despite having central control of the map, he really doesn't have any control anywhere else other than that.
Yeah, I think he has time to kind of clear it. Yeah, he is clearing over 3 o'clock, so he's thinking the same thing as you. He definitely needs that 4th base up. But now that he has like some cloaked wraiths out there too, you're kind of forcing Goliaths from your opponent. It's a great counterplay to dropship, which Sharp is known to be very good at. He's very, very good at dropship types of play. So that's a very nice thing there for JYJ to have those wraiths. But the funny thing is watching Sharp like expand faster than JYJ. He got his 3rd up faster. He's getting his 4th up faster while being kind of contained. Like, he doesn't really have a foothold in the center of the map still.
Yeah, you know, when you control the center of the map, on this map specifically, it's great, but sometimes you can't push or advance from it. You contain them, but you can't gain much ground with it. And I'm a little bit worried now with the top left already being dominated here by Sharp. Sharp actually getting ready to come in with 2 dropships. Tanks once more not covering this area. This has been a pretty big Achilles heel in the 12 o'clock spot, and Sharp is going to strike at it once more. The tanks are going to come up and try to fight it. The 2 dropships are going to evacuate, probably to pick up even more and drop in here again.
That's surprising that he didn't set anything up. Like, even one tank in siege mode near the command center would have wrecked that drop. So, a little bit sloppy here by JYJ. Feels like maybe he's trying to contain too much of the map at once a little bit too early. And now, yeah, it looks like Sharp wants to try to maybe break 12 o'clock again.
Okay, the tanks are inching forward here, and it's not a lot for JYJ. And he's going to be able to use these vultures to basically draw tank shots and then unload a couple more right on top of this. And if we don't have more tanks come up here from JYJ, he's going to lose control of 12 o'clock. Keep in mind that the tanks that are on the low ground here for Sharp can actually inhibit movement up the ramp just to the right. And so I think within the blink of an eye, basically, Sharp is able to dominate this position at the top. And I don't see any kind of counterattack opportunity here for JYJ, although he may try to force it right through the middle.
Yeah, this area is pretty empty. Like, there's a lot of mines in here, but no real units left over by Sharp. Maybe he shuts down 6 o'clock, but the thing is, Sharp has those top 2 left bases. So even if JYJ, shuts this area down, maybe puts the contain a little bit tighter, JYJ is the one that lost a base on this map.
Yeah, he did. He can replace that income here with the base at 3 o'clock, but again, it's getting very scary. JYJ is playing from an extremely behind position. It's a game of 135 supply to Sharp, who's just one, half of a factory round away from maxing out. And, with the big attack through the middle here with JYJ, he lost some units there, so he's got a bit of a squishy position there as well. And I think this has got to be a pretty confusing spot for JYJ. It's probably not clear where he can try to advance. He's going to try to move up here through the upper left, but we know there's a lot of tanks just north of this circulating. There it is now, circulating across that bridge.
Yeah, he does have a lot of units kind of in that top left area. It feels like they're out of position, but then a big drop goes to the main base. So he loses a bunch of central tanks and then just hits elsewhere. And look at this divide of units. He's even got some vultures in here to lay some mines out in the front. Now, JYJ will be able to clear this. It's not a giant drop. He has some units popping out, the tanks coming up, so he will, again, clear it. But Sharp is just ferrying more units over.
Yeah, and he could keep slicing into this position. This is really difficult. If he can actually keep reinforcing this, and we see a lot of the units here from Sharp are staying alive, I think that JYJ may end up just losing the game because this is where all of his factories are. At least 4 of these factories are in siege tank range. There's a lot more units getting dropped out over here. Again, a few units being dropped in these siege tanks is occasionally all you need, but then JYJ sends up a couple more vultures. It looks like he actually does manage to protect those 3 tanks, and for now he's good.
Oh, man, these vultures going over to 3 o'clock is pretty huge. He's going to be able to kill a lot of SCVs there, but a big counter drop by JYJ to the top left. This is a really strong position. Oh, God. He does get the 2 tanks there defensively there to blow up like 3 of his tanks already, and then Sharp trying to counter drop on it, but only 1 Goliath comes out.
Is that a bug, or is there more in those dropships? That doesn't feel right.
There's
I feel
definitely
like you never load 1 Goliath.
Yeah, he definitely has more. If they're on the same spot, they don't unload. They just glitch. So you got to make sure they're spread a little bit. I don't know if
that's
shuttles
true for
do the
anything
same
dropping.
thing.
That's true for, Overlords, shuttles. They all do it. You have to basically click on them as they move to get them out.
Yeah, they do a little wiggle when they're trying to unload, but they can't. GG.
Oh, there it is. GG.
Yeah,
all right.
Yeah. A big first win there for Sharp. I think that this game really exemplifies exactly what Sharp TVT looks like. He always loses map control, and then he just uses tactics and gets ahead and wins. Like, this is every Sharp TVT I've ever seen. Complete containment. You look at it on paper, you say his opponent probably can't lose from here, and then he's like, yes, he can, and he shows you how.
Yeah, he's always very willing to give up the middle of the map. He doesn't fight too much for it, and look, I mean, it hasn't hurt him so far. He was very good at controlling the rest of the map. JYJ got so behind after the 4th base was taken there from Sharp. And again, the top, bottom, left, and right bases on that map, very difficult. If tanks are on the low ground on one side, you can cut off circulation up on the other side. So you can lose control of those bases in TVT very quickly, where in other matchups, those are considered very tough bases to crack into.
Mm-hmm. Well, we're going to go to La Campanella next. This has a very small center. We'll talk more about it as we get into it. Here we go into game number 2.
All right, we've got JYJ in the top right, Sharp in the bottom right here. Both players going to be hugging this side of the map, with Sharp having that 1-0 lead.
Yeah. I tell you that it was very well done by Sharp, really kind of showing his style in this matchup. Now, La Campanella being a 4-player map, it has those mineral patches in the center that does make it like kind of small. Also, don't forget, this is one of those maps that they made in view of like Outsider, right? We've had so many maps like this where they're like, there's these bases on the edge that are kind of islands until you mine out certain areas. And that's what we have here. Behind each of their naturals, you have this open area where you could get dropped. You could even build buildings back there sometimes, and you can get to another expansion. And looking at the spawns, Sharp has a better spawn for that. Like, he has potential with dropships to possibly attack the natural of JYJ very quickly from his own base.
Yeah, and that's going to be a big factor here in TVT. I got to say, Sharp looked really impressive back there. He's not always the Terran everybody's thinking about in various ASLs. Definitely, is this fair to say, Tastosis, maybe 4 years ago? Mm-hmm. About pre-pandemic, he was really killing it. But yeah. I have to say, he looks better than ever.
Yeah. He in the first ASL, he was in the finals against Shuttle, I want to say, in ASL 1 before all the pros really got back into shape, right? Like, do you remember this? It was like Mong, Sharp, Shuttle, and I can't remember who in that top 4.
For some reason, I can remember Shuttle winning, and then I don't remember the other player.
Well, it was the least memorable ASL because it's like basically all the pros were returning from.
Like, I guess StarCraft 1's back. A little bit.
Yeah, but it was like, I think Last was maybe in there too. I don't remember. But anyways, whatever. He basically didn't really do StarCraft 2. So he's been like this really strong Terran for a long time. He definitely, like, he's played so many of them. He's gotten really deep a lot of times. But it doesn't feel like he can quite win it. There's something about his play that isn't completely stable. Like, he's a little bit more aggressive and harass-oriented against Protoss. Against Terran, he loses map control like 90% of the time, which, I mean, it works for him, but honestly, you put him up against Light or Flash, and I'm not betting on Sharp. They know how to finish from that position. And then, like I was mentioning at the beginning of the broadcast, his Terran vs. Zerg is like really standard, but you don't think of him for Terran vs. Zerg. It's not like a Light or a JYJ where you're like, these guys are just beasts in this matchup.
I feel like he's one of these players where if he does come out and start to dominate, he's going to capture a lot more attention.
Yeah.
Again, we have this where, there's a Zerg or Protoss as well where maybe they're regarded as good, but not one of the players you pick out when you think of the race, especially if you don't main that race. I mean, I think, Tastosis, you can relate to this. Like, I look at all the Protoss players, and I know I'm way more than the Zergs or the Terrans, just because I'm trying to learn what they're doing, right?
Of course, yeah.
But Sharp's always had a kind of funny approach to it where I think if he starts to really win again or get to finals a couple times, it's going to be really exciting because it's going to impact everybody plays. As an example, he seems to use dropships a lot more early on in PvT compared to these other players. I guess even TVT a little bit.
Yeah, I would say so. He's like harass-oriented in general. If you think about the way he plays, he's like, he wants his speed vultures running around and trying to kill your economy. He wants to drop in and mess you up. And I think part of the reason of that is he's so fast. I think he's actually he's top 5 fastest in ASL for sure, and he's the second fastest Terran player, I think. Where he is literally always up at 350 APM, all over the place. I've gotten to see him play a lot of times, including recently in Thailand. He came over and kind of bashed all the non-Korean gamers that were there for the BSL, and he's lightning fast, so he can set up these harassments and macro at the same time just beautifully.
It's fun having him versus JYJ here. And again, JYJ, I think with Flash not being in the picture for the time being, especially in the last ASLs, it's been interesting to see the other Terran players stand out. I think everybody kind of notices them more. In some ways, Flash, he was so good for the game, but he also took a lot of the oxygen out of the room from everybody else.
Yeah.
And so it's been cool to kind of see these other players get a little bit more time in the spotlight and see how their styles interact with each other. Mm-hmm. It looks like we're going to have a push in here the extra Marine in the back is going to be able to create a little bit of extra damage. Okay, I thought for a second he was going to land that and attack in.
Yes.
I believe you could push out some of the vultures in the back. Maybe that barracks is not big enough to fully block that off. Is that correct?
No, it was going to block and make one vulture go through the mineral line, but that vulture slid through just in time. So it was going to be 4 Marines and 2 vultures against 5 vultures and 1 Marine. So, like, Sharp is looking for the tiniest edge when he does that, and he just barely didn't get it, so he backed up. There's, like, this really funny thing that happens in Terran vs. Terran where the later you go for your add-on, the more powerful you are for a little short period. So, like, if your opponent has 3 vultures and you have 4, it takes 8 vulture shots to kill a vulture. So 4 dominates 3. It's crazy. You've never seen anything like this in your life. It's like Muta versus Muta when you have the extra Mutas, right? Or the extra carapace. You're like,
yes.
Oh, wow, that's wild how hard that kills. But, of course, if you get those later add-ons, you might have, like, later tanks and things like that. So that's where that can mess you up. And, yeah, there's like, a lot of small rock, paper, scissor things that happen at the beginning of a Terran versus Terran.
There's a Wraith being produced over here, but from Sharp, but it looks like JYJ is going to pounce. He's got 2 tanks in the mix. The tanks deal a lot more damage overall. Now, there's Goliaths coming out from these factories here as well. But, I mean, how prepared exactly is Sharp going to be for this? Obviously, the Wraith can shoot anything down that doesn't have anti-air. One Marine's not going to cut it, but is this going to be so much damage that maybe it snowballs, JYJ wins the fight, and then the Vultures can come in and kill the workers?
Yeah, that's what he wants. That's exactly what he's going for, because he realizes there's no tanks, and it's like, okay, well, you do have a Wraith, but Wraith DPS is low. So he moves in, and you can see his tanks makes such a huge difference. This is why you don't see Sharp's strategy utilized that much, because if your opponent does get these tanks out, look at this. Look at how badly he is massacring Sharp's army.
Yeah, the moving shot is pretty brutal here, and right when Sharp can't go back any further and has to stand his ground, siege mode. These Goliaths get picked off. There's still 3 tanks, not for much longer, but these SCVs, yeah, that's going to be it. I was going to say, once the Vultures spill in that high of a number, all the workers die. And so that means we're tied up 1-1, and we'll be going into game 3.
Yeah. You know, it's funny, like maybe 1 year ago, or it's probably closer to a year and a half ago, it was really popular to do things like Vulture Goliath because you smash Vulture. But tanks beat it so badly that nowadays, like, Vulture users are just squeezing a tank out. And by the time they squeeze the tank out, if they realize that, like, you are not also going tanks, an attack just appears because the tanks can just... They have such a long range. They deal so much damage. They have a lot of health, right? They just can bully through an army like that. So builds like what we saw from Sharp have really fallen out of style in the last year or so.
So it's going to end on Polypoid. I think this is a great map to close this out on. It does require a little bit of a different play style. This is more of what we call a standard map. Definitely a map, you know, if you've been playing a lot of StarCraft, you're very familiar with. Who do you think is going to take this final game, Artosis?
Oh, I still think it's going to be Sharp, man. He is really good TVT if he's not dead at the beginning of the game. So I think he chooses a build where you can have a siege tank, and he should be good.
All right, guys, we're going to go into Game 3 now here for the first best of 3 of the ASL Wildcard match, Season 17. Okay, we've got Sharp here in the top right. In the bottom right, it's JYJ. Same positions as Game 1, but again, a very different map here on Polypoid.
Yeah, Poly, you know, well, this is kind of like our big standard map along with Vermeer, right? It's a fantastic map. I honestly, Tastosis, I still enjoy playing on Polypoid. I think it's still like a lot of fun. I have a lot of interesting games here. What do you say? Have you gotten sick of it yet, or are you still liking it?
No, I like Polypoid.
Yeah.
I think it's a great map. I mean, I think there's always something to the fact that you've played a map a bunch, so you've probably experienced a lot of the same problems that everybody has on that map, right?
For sure.
Even now, I don't mind fighting Spirit as much. I complained about it a lot right at the start, but I've kind of learned to appreciate it for what it is. But look, I think maps like this, we always have to have a couple of them, right? Because these are the maps that have the core features that allow really good players to play on it, but also new players and bad players.
Yeah. Yeah. It's there's nothing too complicated about Polypoid. Whereas you look at a map like we were just on La Campanella, if that game starts to go long at all, it gets really complicated on how to play in every single matchup because of the weird ways that you have to traverse the different terrain. Here, you can just walk wherever you want. But taking a look at these builds, they are both doing that forward 11 barracks. It's a pretty popular build at the moment. It doesn't hurt your economy. In fact, it's higher economy than building the barracks in your main base because you scout later, because you'll be able to scout with a Marine and an SCV at basically a very similar time. And, of course, it can punish some of these fast expansions as well. The one downside would be if your opponent is going for something like an 8 racks or a double 8 racks, you might get caught off guard and just lose the game because your barracks is out of position and you're not going to be able to get Marines out defensively.
Yeah. When you have two players that both go for this, it usually does not amount to anything since neither one can really attack into each other, so things tend to normalize pretty fast. I want to see where these first SCVs are going. It looks like we're going to have a counterclockwise scouting for both players. So Sharp is going in the wrong direction. JYJ is going in the right.
Yeah, so that is good for JYJ to be able to find him first. We'll see how many Marines they go. Some people go up to 3 Marines with forward 11 racks. You don't necessarily have to. You do want to make sure that you have enough Marines to counter what your opponent does. You kind of saw in that first game what a couple Marines can actually do to slow down an expansion and whatnot. But right now, we have Sharp's Marine coming down to scout JYJ, and JYJ has started that 3rd Marine. Sharp went for 2. So that's kind of the big difference here, and we'll see. Sharp actually walks very close. He sees that there's 3 Marines, and now he's going to know how to play there defensively.
Yeah. So again, not too much will come from this small interaction here right now. The factories are going to be finishing shortly here. How soon do they want to make the command center? It seems like you could, if on both sides, get away with it pretty fast.
Yeah, you would still just go for a very fast command here. You can see JYJ is saving up his minerals. Sharp might have to do it a little bit more carefully, and in fact, he starts a bunker. Wow. I really didn't expect that. And that will open up
Yeah, that seems very expensive.
Yeah, that is. Like, he decided to make the bunker instead of a 3rd Marine, so, like, you can't completely say it's wrong, because if he gets attacked with 3 Marines and he has 2, he's in a lot of trouble. So, I mean, this sets him up for a defensive position, though, where he can tech immediately. The thing is, when JYJ sees that this is what's going on, he can do the same. It's like, well, you're making a bunker. Your second factory literally can't be fast. It just cannot be.
This Vulture's going to try to come through here, and it's going to be blocked. Nicely done. Definitely when you lose control of the map like that, you got to be ready for any kind of Vulture that can run in. I mean, this is definitely true in PvT even as well. They can slip right by you and start to kill off a lot of your workers. The second factory is coming along right now. Obviously, the command center here for JYJ going to be a little bit faster, and so he'll get the kick in with the minerals from that a little bit more quickly. Where are the forks in the build from here, Tastosis? We see JYJ taking the 3rd factory. Is Sharp forced to take a 3rd factory, or does he have other options?
Well, I don't. It looks like he is upgrading from that add-on, which is kind of shocking to me. Like, maybe he's going siege. Like, if he's going mines or speed, it doesn't. To me personally, it does not make much sense. I mean, there's a world in which you. Okay, yeah, see the siege tank. That's what I thought. Now, if he's going siege tank specifically, I think he should stay on 2 factory. Like, you can go like siege tank Goliath, you can go siege tank Vulture. If you want to make just a couple siege tanks, you can just go mass Vulture with 3 factory with that as well. But, you know, when you have your bunker, you do want to make use of it. And the way you make use of it is you get higher tech units out. So that's what the siege tank is. I think he's going to have a 2nd tank. It looks like he's just going to mass Vultures from here. And, you know, looking at this position, like, I give a slight edge to Sharp, but there's a ton of play on both sides.
Yeah, there are definitely some ideas that are similar here from game one. Granted, a lot of TVT, if it starts to get into these pretty normal builds, it is a lot of massing of vultures. And in some ways, it's like you do that because if you don't, you'll lose to their massing of vultures. It's sort of a funny thing.
Yeah.
It can look like, why are they doing this? If neither side can attack into each other, well, it's because the other guy also went for the vultures. And so that negates the other player being able to come in and get away with anything else.
Yeah, yeah. And like, if you have the vultures, you lay the mines in their face, and then you bring up tanks. So, like, you can see here the mines are further up for JYJ because he didn't open with tank. He opened with vultures instead. He didn't have that very important bunker that Sharp had defensively, so he can bring his tanks further forward onto the map, and that's kind of where you gain the advantage. This is why it is so tempting to go vultures even defensively, is because you know, you don't want them to get a huge containment on you. The defender's advantage of tanks being in siege mode is so strong in Terran versus Terran. It's absurd.
Yeah, it's a little bit crazy. We do have, at least as far as mines go, JYJ, his mines are laid out a little bit more forward. Mines, although they can blow up units besides vultures, by the way, vultures are like hovering units, so they don't set off mines like SCVs and Archons. Kind of a weird little factoid about the game here. But they also give you vision, which allows you to know if anything's out there or not. And so much about TVT is, you know, a misstep can cost so much of your army, especially when it comes to, you know, splash damage from siege tanks, that you want to be ready. And that's why he has that Marine as the point man to go out in the front to confirm what's out there. A scan comes down, and he's going to try to advance a little bit further here. There's two tanks just to the north here for Sharp. It looks like JYJ is going to siege up a little bit more quickly. He does nick that tank over there on the left. That's at about half HP.
Yeah, that's a huge move. Like, targeting tanks is absolutely crucial in these battles. If you get the tank advantage, that's how you win the game. Now, he's trying to siege up on the gas. Very, very strong play here. He should try to maybe sneak a mine over that can see the gas so that he can continually get shots, because he's going to run out of scans there. In the meantime, Sharp counterattacks with these vultures. This is a great move from Sharp. He's going to cut off reinforcements and pick off a lot of units as well.
One Wraith comes out, and there's no anti-air. That means it can kill the tanks, but how long is that going to be? These SCVs are being evacuated. Meanwhile, a counterattack over here from Sharp. He's going to kill off so many of these SCVs. It's getting to be a pretty wild game. The One Marine is going to draw some shots away for the time being. I just see two Vultures, now three, defending against what Sharp has, but so many SCVs of the natural have been killed off.
Dude, this is wild. The amount of damage dealt to JYJ over here is immense. And Sharp ran his SCVs, so he didn't really lose that many SCVs. Yeah. He loses some mining time, but who cares? He's got two Wraiths out now. He's going to have Cloak. He has some tanks in siege mode. Like, I'm not worried for Sharp. I think he just took a big advantage in this game.
I agree. And it really goes to show you how tactical TVT can get right away in the early game.
Well, especially with Sharp. Like, look, once again, he loses map control instantly, right? His opponent looks to be way ahead, and then Sharp utilizes tactics to come back. That's like every TVT game from Sharp. This is how he wins games. It's like, oh, you have me contained? You're winning? No, you're not. Look at this move. It's almost like watching like a Yu-Gi-Oh cartoon or something. It's like, oh, I have this card up my sleeve. And then he just kills all the SCVs at your natural, and you're like, all right, that's sick. I guess you're the real protagonist here, Sharp.
I guess you're the true anime protagonist.
Yeah.
He does kill off the SCV over there that was maybe going to expand into that spot. Remember that the more central third base on the map here for Polypoid is a mineral only, which you can take, and it looks like that's what Sharp's going to go for here. But again, gas bases have a lot of value here in TVT.
Yeah, honestly, mineral bases, like, you can take a mineral third, but it's almost feels like taking a mineral base in Protoss versus Zerg, right? Where, like, if you see that mineral base, you're like, well, I mean, you can make more Zealots, but maybe you should just take a fourth, you know? Where
this will give me minerals to make another command center at a gas base or something.
Exactly. That's what it feels like in TVT, honestly. Like, yeah, you can get, like, some vulture pumping for a bit, but honestly, when you start hitting, like, really high supplies and there's a lot of tanks, the Vultures scale down terribly. Like, they become this unit where you're like, well, I'm glad I have this unit. Like, I'm glad I have units, but it's just so much weaker at that point.
Now, the Vultures are going to come in here. They're going to snipe that one SCV. I got to say, a little bit cavalier for JYJ to just start the command center there, especially in a Vulture versus Vulture game like the one that we have here now. You know, the easiest way to get ahead when you have mass Vultures is to find these weak points, you know, the kind of low-hanging strategic fruit on the map that you can take, like a SCV that's making a command center isolated. You know, JYJ punished for that. That expansion is going to be delayed a little bit. A Vulture drop comes here into the main. SCV's not pulled away just yet, and this is a very SCV-saturated location. I still don't see JYJ really responding.
Yeah, the AI on his Vultures here are terrible. The Goliath is not moving forward, so Sharp is just targeting SCVs as much as he can. He continues to build on his economic advantage here, and, like, it really feels to me like Sharp is just kind of outplaying JYJ in this game. You can see JYJ, like, everything is on fire, man. He has a tank that was sitting on the ramp blocking other units. He's kind of getting contained at this point. The only thing he really has going for him is he chose a gas base as his third, but is that going to be enough to break out of what Sharp is setting up?
Yeah, you know, it's funny. StarCraft, I think people have this illusion that it's a game where they're doing everything at once. You kind of are. You can only do one thing at a time, right? Each click is only doing one thing, basically. And a lot of times you have to figure out what takes priority. Like, okay, I'll send these units over here. They'll have to figure this out while I micro this over here. It seems like in JYJ's main, that's what he tried to do, and his units weren't able to get back there. He should have prioritized that better. And with that, he would have been able to keep more SCVs alive. Down here at 6 o'clock, JYJ is going to push in. He should be able to shut down the tanks on the low ground. It was a bit of a close call, but Sharp's not done yet. Okay, no, he's going to pull away now. I'm sorry.
Yeah, just barely going to be able to end up holding that. Sharp being really annoying and pretty darn efficient with these little attacks. Finally, he does get rid of those. It does feel like JYJ doesn't prioritize defense at expansions. Isn't that, like, kind of a funny thing? Like,
yeah,
you know, we saw that in the retro game 1, right, where he just wasn't putting units at 12. We've seen that twice here at 6 o'clock, where he's, like, just building the command center, no units there, and then an attack comes, he has, like, 1 unit there, and Sharp is just dealing damage all over the place. Like, it feels like JYJ almost has too much confidence that he's controlling the game and you can't attack him.
I think JYJ expects his positions to be respected more and engaged with more. And Sharp seems to be the kind of guy that just ignores wherever JYJ is and creates an opportunity somewhere else. And we've seen that happen a couple times where, yeah, JYJ just isn't really protecting certain key areas, primarily because he's already tried to set up and fortify a position before Sharp has.
Yeah. Now, Sharp, if you look at the mini-map, and you just look at red versus blue, right? Sharp has this diagonal line that is keeping JYJ in a 4-base area. That's incredibly, incredibly strong. Even if they have similar bases right now, and in fact, like, they're both going to get their 4ths at the same time, and the gas is quicker here for JYJ. So, like, yeah, I mean, he can use more technical units. We see he's going 2-port Wraith. That might break him out. We don't know yet. We'll see. But when you look at that red diagonal line, if Sharp can hold that or some semblance of that, that's one of the most powerful things in Terran vs. Terran. It's not necessarily the expansion amount you have at a given moment, but how much of the map do you truly control? Because if you control most of the map, that's where you really suffocate your opponent.
Yeah, especially with Sharp moving in and setting up base over here at 3 o'clock. This is brutal. I mean, that was always kind of an ambiguous position, but with him having that and still controlling all this stuff, reaching up here to the left, even though JYJ is breaking out now, he's still a long travel distance from shutting down the space at the top left.
Yeah, it looks like maybe JYJ is just like saying, okay, yeah, I'm a little bit behind. Let's set up a line so that I can take the bottom left myself. I don't think he has any real potential attack top left. Sharp right now is kind of exploding his macro. He's suddenly up at 5 base. And that's scary, man. That mineral base really has paid off in that way. And honestly, I look at this game and I think if Sharp kind of just tries to keep that line, like if he can deny 3 o'clock and 9 o'clock, that's enough to win, you know? If you just like kind of block everything your opponent is doing, that is a great way to win Terran vs. Terran. The hard way is to actually go kill your opponent. because siege tanks and turrets and all that, that's actually very difficult. But you can kind of shut them out and be like, yeah, you're not getting enough of the map to beat me.
You know, something else to point out is that if Sharp is not denied from mining from these bases for a while either, like, you can try to play catch-up. It's going to be a little bit harder for JYJ to take a base easily. I guess he can only take the bottom left main. Okay, as I say that, he takes the bottom left main. But, you know, he has to start to catch up because at this point in time, Sharp is going to start to get further and further ahead because he's soaking up so many more resources from these other bases.
Yeah, he really is, and he's going to be able to pop out a ton of siege tanks and stay really, really efficient. You can see the Wraiths are like trying to make something happen here. They're trying to lean on the fact that you can't have anti-air everywhere, but like honestly, they're just so much weaker than the Goliaths that as Sharp moves into these areas, they're going to lose a lot of their function. You know, on an economy this small, you can't just like go Wraiths and be like, yes, this is fine, you know, and make like 30 Wraiths and go break things. That's not really a thing in StarCraft 1 anymore. They're kind of like a surprise. And now Sharp is saying, okay, I have a bigger economy. He's adding a bunch of starports himself, and that's a great play. If you're ahead to go mass Wraith against someone who already went Wraith, like, you're just going to outproduce them.
What is the rationale for Sharp taking a natural? Because he's done this twice now. He doesn't take the main, he takes the natural. Now, I know I've seen games where, like, Zerg do this, and they make sunken colonies and kind of defend it. Is it some idea like that, like he can secure that and then take the free starting location behind it?
No, it's 100 times easier to kill the natural. You can drop it in front of it, behind it, up on the high ground. You know, like, there's so many ways. I honestly think it's just closer. And so he's just, like, moving really fast, and he's just like, I just need a base, and he puts it down. Because, like, at this point in the game, there is so much going on that he's just, like, anywhere he can put down a command center, he wants to put one down.
Okay, we've got a big attack coming here from Sharp. And, you know, these mines, they could end up backfiring depending on what he drops there. Some of the shared damage from those spider mines are connecting here. Siege tank sieging up for Sharp and obliterating this position up here. JYJ, the tanks are falling. There's so much here from Sharp. I don't know if JYJ can hang on. And keep in mind, if JYJ loses this position and Sharp gets his tanks onto the high ground, that's going to be crazy.
Yeah. A lot of dropships coming out right now for JYJ. You know, that's kind of got to be the way that JYJ plays this, it looks like, because Sharp has taken so much control. Maybe you can slip some dropships like top left. If you could shut down top left, like control that main base and shell the natural, I could definitely see JYJ coming back, but oh, this is going to be a bad moment. Sharp's Wraith's coming in. He has more. He scans. He's doing the moving shot, and this might actually be the end of the game and the series.
You could be right. With those Wraiths taken out, now Sharp can basically find all the positions that JYJ had carved out on the map and made his own and start to erase them. These tanks are going to be shot down. You can see the one SCV not going to last that long. It's picked off, so the turret can't be finished. The tanks are going to start to fall. And, you know, on a map this wide, there are so many positions that have to be protected, and you could see that Sharp can at least start to chop that up.
Yeah, it looks like Sharp bringing everything together. There's similar supplies at the moment, but Sharp in that control gets to decide where to attack. A very thin presence here of siege tanks. So Sharp going to cut this map in half vertically, it looks like. His Vultures getting in on top, sieging in a beautiful spot. And now you can't really reinforce your left-hand side of the map now as JYJ. He has no factories over there. So it's like what you have over there, you gotta shuttle things over with your dropships. And the more this happens to JYJ, the harder it's going to be to defend everything.
JYJ is, with this middle position kind of gone, he can rely on dropships for a little bit. He did lose a lot of those Wraiths, so he doesn't have that kind of air dominance. There are those dropships now. We got to see what they can do, where they can hit. And if they're going to get shot down, possibly. We all know Wraiths kill dropships extremely fast. But this puts a lot of pressure here on JYJ to basically make these repositioning plays work. Otherwise, you know, he can just fall apart.
Mm-hmm. The dropships, like, look at how many dropships he has. That is insanity. Oh my god.
10 dropships.
10 dropships. If they get caught, that's it. If they could get to the main base, he might just win the game. You know? There's like real possibilities with this.
Funnily enough, you know, to get to the main, you have to go over so many spots and get spotted so hard. So, you know, he gets forced into dropping over here. Not that this is a bad spot to drop into. Man, these Wraiths are just going to go crazy onto these dropships, by the way.
Between the mines that were there and the siege tank, like, he blew up most of that army before it could fire. That was great defense from Sharp.
Oh, my God.
That's it, man. That is
only
it.
2 dropships, man. that should be game. That was so much supply lost.
Yeah.
They did seem like they bugged again. Guys, just so you know, when you have a bunch of dropships or shuttles or overlords and you unload, if you tell them all to unload in one spot, they will not all unload.
Yeah.
You have to make them all manually unload. It's something, I don't even remember when I learned this. I felt like it was the first year or two of the game, but you know, easier said than done. I know that obviously our players know that, but you got to make sure you put those inputs in there. And that's hard when you have this much all loaded up, because instead they will all very slowly unload and kind of stagger and wiggle around. And, I mean, who knows? Maybe if JYJ gets the full unload off anyways, he still loses this, but that was rough to watch.
It was. It's like you want them stacked up so you can dodge missile turrets and whatnot. But you need them spread so that they'll actually unload. You know, it's one of those choices. That's what's so beautiful about StarCraft, really, though. Like you were saying before, you think they're doing everything. They're not. Everything you do is a trade-off in this game.
Right. Exactly. It's going to be Sharp's turn to drop in here. He's actually killed off these turrets. And keep in mind, with how fragmented JYJ is positionally on the map, if he's not able to save these factories, this is going to be devastating. Now, there is some line of defense here for JYJ. He's got a decent amount of tanks back here. We've got a counter drop over here in the top left. This is going to be a lot to follow for the next minute. But if he can't control this position over here with the factories, he's going to lose where all of his production is.
Yeah. Like, this is a great play by JYJ. Like, he needed to do this. I feel like he needed to do this a few minutes ago, though, because if you look at Sharp's bank, he's got a ton of minerals. He does not care. He will throw SCVs at you. He will respam those turrets out. As long as he keeps enough geysers alive, he should be fine. Now, he does a lot of damage in the main base here of JYJ. Kills turrets, depots, and all that. It's messy to clean up. They're actually both, like, kind of similar supply, but, well, I guess JYJ does have the bottom 2 left gases, right? And they're similar in supply, they're similar in mineral banks. He did kill the entire top left command center, so that's kind of big. But Sharp has 3 o'clock, so they're actually pretty darn even after all that.
I think the drop in the main where Sharp hit JYJ, I think that was a mistake. I think he should have waited for the next drop and dropped on the drop.
Yeah.
And instead, he kind of gave up the top left part of the map. And, I mean, look, you can fight back and get those tanks up there at the top left, but this is making things a lot harder to close out here. And I think Sharp, who's generally a little bit better with the decision-making, has made this more complicated. And he's not going to go fight those tanks again. Instead, he's going to try to come in here. It seems like he wants to make almost like a decapitating move here. He's basically trying to attack the factories.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's not a bad idea. I mean, you can definitely win the game if you kill all the factories off. There's just no production left. Oh, man, and JYJ really blows that army up. Look at that. Siege tanks being eliminated in a matter of seconds. Great defense. Dude, you can't drop there anymore. That is a no-go zone now.
Well, once you hit the same location a couple times, it should have organically built up enough defense. You know, a lot of these positions, they almost become anti-fragile over time because you know, if they start to get beaten up, the scars form there. Those are the turrets, right?
Yeah.
And then it's just going to have a thicker hide. So, yeah, you have to try to find a new place to create opportunities. And I think that if we have another drop with Sharp headed southbound over there, it's going to be a disappointing moment for him. Sharp should take out JYJ's 2 tanks up here and try to soak up the resources there, because if we can go super big picture, both the The only two truly shared bases on this map are 3 o'clock and 9 o'clock. Those are both owned by Sharp.
Yeah.
So all Sharp has to do is keep trying to take fights and soak up both his as well as the technically shared locations on the map, and he wins.
Yeah, and I think Sharp is getting ready for a different portion of this game as well. I saw him go 3 add-ons on Starport, so he might even be thinking about a battlecruiser transition eventually. But you're definitely right about that top left. I feel like that's where he should have been spending his effort. Because if JYJ, like if this is a big drop and he holds this main base, I actually think that this becomes a position that JYJ can win. Like, it felt like Sharp was ahead this whole time, but, like, this, how do you break that? You can't go up the ramp.
Well, also,
it's tough.
I'm sorry, I keep running over you. My bad there.
It's all right. I want your TVT analysis. Please, go.
I was going to say, what if he could even get SCVs up here and make a command center or something, you know? It could be a real problem.
That happens in TVT, man. You could shuttle those up there.
Sure.
Yeah.
So this is, I mean, a problem that one way or the other, Sharp is going to have to figure out how to deal with. Now, JYJ, I think a bit of a misclick perhaps on the mini-map, ended up driving those dropships right through the turrets, and so I think he just cut his dropship count in half. Meanwhile, JYJ cuts through the contain that had been there for the vast majority of this game and is now pushing north.
Oh, dude, look at this move by JYJ. He might even get 3 o'clock. He's pushing hard enough that Sharp has to actually think about defending his main base now as well. Like, if your units are everywhere but your main, that becomes the best place to attack. Now, Sharp going to bring his dropships over to 3 o'clock, try to save this. He's already lost the gas. And, dude, when you have that many tanks, it's so hard to break.
Yeah, it's really tough. Sharp, he could try to drop there with his own units. It's not like there's any Goliaths protecting that, especially if JYJ isn't micromanaging that. I mean, you could even allow the a couple of vultures dropped on there for the shared tank splash damage to clean it up. We do have battle cruisers now. It seems like the battle cruisers made a little bit more sense before the top left was taken out, and it feels like this should be a little bit harder to tech into. Battle cruisers are kind of the closing tech play when the map is split in half, but this map is now in a more complex position than before.
Yeah. In these battlecruisers just got their +1 attack, so their upgrades are pretty far behind against the +3 that we're seeing on both these sides. But I do like a couple of them popping out. I don't think that Sharp can afford a full battlecruiser switch, but if he can clear some of these strong tank lines and you're forcing your opponent to start making more Goliaths now, that's always uncomfortable for the tank Goliath player. Right? Because battlecruiser tank will end up victorious at the end of the day. But look at this. A counterattack coming up as those BCs go to clear the top left. This is a huge moment from JYJ.
In BC tech, I mean, all the infrastructure for the battlecruisers is right on camera to the right side of our screen. So he's going to have to lift this off and make the add-ons again. Sharp is going to fight back here from the high ground. It looks like he's making quick work of these tanks. Another big drop up here in the main, and it does seem like the roles have been reversed a little bit here. Now it's JYJ trying to destroy the factories of Sharp.
Well, Sharp is dropping on top of these tanks, so it looks like he'll clear it without too much problem. And in fact, he killed all those tanks that were attacking into his natural as well. These BCs clearing out all the top left, so Sharp can finally re-expand there. And it looks to me like we might have Sharp stabilize. We're kind of in this funny position where they both have still big banks, so JYJ still can make like a big army and do something with it, but he's got to start making some progress here. Like, he lost like 50 supply in the top right in the last minute and a half, you know, and if you keep doing that, Sharp is just going to be able to take this game.
We've got some drop ships loading up again. JYJ's put up an amazing fight. I wish we could get a mineral check here at the bottom left. And the gas, too. I know 6 o'clock is mined out. But, I mean, eventually JYJ is going to dry up. His gas has been less for a while. His supply's been less. It is a funny thing when you see the Terrans spike up this high in minerals. It's kind of hard to spend the minerals when you get far enough along here. It goes to show you why Sharp took this mineral base that we're gliding past the dropship so late and really isn't even prioritizing mining from it just yet.
Oh, man, another big drop looks like it's going to come out here. The SCVs come to meet a flank there and the siege on the low ground. JYJ, I don't think he's going to be able to take over this base this time. So that was very good reactions from Sharp. He's going to be able to clear that all out and maintains that supply advantage, maintains that top left base. And, of course, we see that 9 o'clock being held. That's the real linchpin, it feels like, because that's the base that could make it even for JYJ.
Right. JYJ now going to push up northbound over here once more. Just going to mow down these few mines. But it just seems like JYJ is working with less. And as the the gas count gets so low, it's going to be hard to replenish anything that matters in this game. Even the Goliaths cost a little bit of gas. And although gas geysers don't fully mine out in StarCraft 1, they do return so little gas that you can definitely feel it when you're the player that has nothing but dried up gas geysers.
Yeah, at that point, like, we'll actually see Vultures re-enter the game. It becomes a funny thing in super late game. Like, when BCs are out, you know that the geysers are getting really low, but you have all these minerals, so you might make Vultures to try to... It's like, at that point, you're happy to trade, like, 12 Vultures for a tank or two, you know? Just to get rid of anything you can. Raid in, kill ComSat stations, kill SCVs, kill missile turrets. We're not quite there yet, but honestly, looking at JYJ's gas, we might see him start adding Vultures soon. It's better to have something than nothing.
The tanks are going to come up now. They're going to try to push through the north. Again, only 200 gas. You can see he's slowly ticking up a little bit more, but every blue tank that falls, every Goliath that falls here, it's going to be that much harder to refill. We don't have battlecruisers for JYJ, and we probably never will because he just doesn't have the kind of resources to fund that. The Goliaths can chase the battlecruisers away, and it looks like this one over here, the Stray one, is going to be picked off. So a nice little victory here from JYJ, but probably in a war that he's going to lose.
Yeah, at this point, when you're actually the BC guy against Goliath tank guy, you have to take the most defensive siege positions, because if you're going to win as Goliath tank, it's via attacking. You literally can't win versus it defending because Yamato kills everything. It just... Yamato outranges everything. There's nothing you can really do about it. So you have to attack. So what I want to see from Sharp, like, I don't understand this move out, right? Just turtle every position. Siege tanks on high ground. Back far enough that if your opponent attacks, they lose cost efficiency. And if you just do that, your BCs will grind the win over time.
Yeah, Yamato Cannon makes a big difference here. In that, that is an infinite resource. It takes a long time to accumulate the mana for it, but you can just pick off tank or even Goliath or anything really that you can get over time. Ouch. Big mind hit there. Let's see if we even have that upgraded yet, but that should be becoming a factor pretty soon here.
Yeah, it looks like he is pushing into this mineral base. The thing is, the mineral base itself doesn't have that much value, but he needs the position to be able to push the other bases. Sharp, though, he's got enough BCs to literally fly in and kill everything. You can kind of kite BCs with Goliaths, but if you're doing that, you're going to lose all your tanks. So, again, very tough decisions here for JYJ. Sharp maintains a max. It's a more powerful max, but, of course, JYJ does have that mobility.
Yeah, JYJ's got the mobility, but the battlecruisers, we just saw those 3 Yamato cannon shots get big wins there. He's going to continue to push forward here with these battlecruisers. The Goliath count is going to be whittled down as the tanks wreck this, right? I see, just a couple... Oh, hold on. You can make a couple of wraiths to combat BCs, but I think you need more than what JYJ made here. It seems like he had the same number of wraiths as there are battlecruisers. GG. That's going to be a 35-minute TVT.
Wow.
To close it out, Sharp defeating JYJ. You were right, Artosis, 2-1.
Yeah, that's the thing about Sharp, man. Like, honestly, you look at the way that he plays the early game and you think that he shouldn't be as good as he is, but he really, tactically, no one is honestly that much is better than Sharp for the Terran race. Like, maybe Flash, but really, Sharp, when you give him some units, he will figure out how to use them. And he is just a fantastic player. So he goes to that final match. JYJ going to be a bit sad, but I would be unbelievably surprised if he does not qualify for ASL this season anyways.
Yeah. Very nice little appetizer here as we're getting ready for ASL Season 17. We've got more matches coming up. We're going to be going, shifting gears here, a much shorter matchup most likely. Hero versus Action, guys. We'll be right back.
나를 부르는 수많은 단어들.
페이커?
불사대마왕 대비력.
하지만 나를 가장 기쁘게 하는 건
상혁이야!
팬들과 소통할 때 나는 살아있음을 느낀다.
혹시 나랑 1대1 가능? 피지컬은 나쁘지 않는데 운영이 좀 아쉽네.
선수들과 직접 소통할 수 있는 개인 방송과 구독자 Q&A까지. 아프리카TV 팀페이지.
Spotlight, hot nights, glow red and stoplight. I slay, big swerve, big will, rich taste. I serve, line up for the looks that kill. So rich it can make you ill. Don't choke on the diamond pill. Cheap lines, get a gag like ew. Go fetch, black collar, mad cash, high dollar. Just watch, don't follow, no smoke, get higher. Bad chicks if the world on fire. Bow down to the golden strand. Get in line, I'm in high demand. Come close, yeah, I'll use what I can when I can. I will rate with a 1 to a 10. I will call if I want it again. Spotlight, hot nights, glow red at the stoplight. I slay, big swerve, big will, rich taste. I serve, line up for the looks that kill. So rich it can make you ill. Don't choke on the diamond pill. Cheap lines, get a gag like ew. Go fetch, black collar, mad cash, high dollar. Just watch, don't follow, no smoke, get higher. Bad chicks if the world on fire. Bow down to the golden strand. Get in line, I'm in high demand. Come close, yeah, I'll use what I can when I can. I will rate with a 1 to a 10. I will call if I want it again.
Welcome back, everybody. We are going straight into this ZVZ. We had a great TVT to start off this ASL. Sharp is victorious, defeating JYJ 2-1. Now on to Action versus Hero.
Yeah, pretty much going to be the opposite of what we just saw there. TVT, the longest matchup, ZVZ, the shortest. I mean, I'm still hoping that sometime during the season we get another Hive ZVZ. That was one of the highlights in Season 16 for me personally. So definitely hoping for that. But, a ZVZ between these two is going to be good anyways. They're both very strong Zerg vs. Zerg players.
And let's not forget, beyond even the Hive play and the crazy, out of Mutaling Scourge Overlord tech, we had, which was, what Tastosis is referencing with the Hive, all the crazy things that happened there. We had a lot of interesting stuff, like a second gas taken without a second hatchery, long distance mining from, a hatchery that was at the ramp. There was a lot of cool stuff that happened in ZVZ last season that I hope we get to see carry over into Season 17. Yeah,
I really do as well. Action, definitely one of the guys that could be involved with that. Definitely very comfortable going into those later stages. He's one of the guys that has been in multiple later ZVZs in pro gaming history. But, obviously this is probably going to be decided by Zerglings or Mutas or a combination of the two. Do you have a favorite here, Tasteless?
Maybe Hero. I think Action's really scary, but I think Hero is very good at planning in these EVZs. Mm-hmm. It's a very tough one to call for sure. We're going to be starting this out on La Campanella. And, ZVZ does seem to be a matchup that is getting more exciting, more interesting. So let's get into it. Our second best of three here in the wildcard match. The winner goes up against Sharp here as we start off ASL Season 17. Okay, we've got our two players hugging the left side of the map. Action in the top and Hero in the bottom. Action's Overlord headed southbound as Heroes is going to be going over towards the east here. So right away, there's going to be a scouting advantage here for Action.
Yeah, and you can see they're both within the top 5 win percentages in Zerg vs. Zerg. Really, only effort with a very impressive ZVZ right there, 59%. That's part of the problem for Zerg players, and it always has been, is that ZVZ is so hard to have a very good win rate in. Even the best players oftentimes are just, it's not like the other matchups, right? Like you'll get someone like Snow, right? And he'll be 80% in PvT or something, right? Or 75%. And you can get that in basically all the matchups from the best players, except really Zerg vs. Zerg. Obviously there was an exception where Jaedong had an insane win percentage at one time in the Kespa era. But, that's the issue, is like you are going to drop maps to players that you are better at everything than in Zerg vs. Zerg sometimes.
It does appear to be a very punishing matchup. Action going for pretty early gas here. And we don't have the pool laid down just yet. Hero with a little bit of an older build. Older's never, bad, by the way, but Action a little bit of a hyper-modern approach here, with the gas being taken much earlier with a much further delayed pool. I've always been interested by this. You and I talk about this a lot off-camera, Tastosis, when we're talking about ZVZs, is this intrigue with like hyper-quick gas takes or gas with very delayed pools.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting because like there's certain times where you can look at it and be like, okay, well, this makes a lot of sense if you're both rushing to Mutalisks. Like, if I get my geyser reasonably quicker than yours, if I get it 15 seconds faster than you or something, well, that's an extra pair of Scourge, right? And that can make the difference.
Right.
But, of course, it hurts your economy in other ways. So there's, like everything in StarCraft, there's a lot of give and take based on the way that you want to end up playing that. So, I don't know. We'll see if Action made the right choice here, as Ling's already heading across the map, an extremely fast layer for Action.
I would be curious to see if there's a way to tell that they took the gas extra early, too. You can't click on their extractor, and it will tell you what it contains as far as gas, right? So there's no easy way to just see. I guess not having a lot of lings and maybe even having these drones pulled over here at the entrance, maybe that would be enough of a tell.
Yeah, like, I mean, could you think that this is just like a standard 12 pull? I think it is really hard to tell the guys are timing, though. Yeah, you're definitely right. There's no way to see what's been mined in StarCraft 1. So, Hero,
I don't know if you can like count one drone less or what. You know what I mean? I'm not really sure. This is a very, very technical thing. But yeah, by the way, second hatch thrown down here in the main for action.
Yeah, that kind of seeds the fact that he doesn't have enough lings to take it at the natural, but still wants that extra production. And of course, with how fast his layer is, I think that's something that can maybe end up paying off for him, having that second hatchery for that production. But the thing is, if you see that as Hero, aren't you supposed to just take your own natural and make a lot of lings?
I mean, I think so.
I'm fairly certain, right? Because if they have the hatch in the main base, it's like, okay, well, you have that extra production, but the reason you took it in the main is because I have more lings now, so if I make the hatchery myself at the natural, go slightly lower econ, I will have more lings than you, you know? It's like, yeah,
But
you get the extra drones right now, but we should have Hero having map control throughout.
But does it not, from the guy who takes the sneaky fast gas play, I mean, is his intentions just to basically come in with a lot more weight in the mid game? I mean, won't he have like an extra set of Scourge or Mutas along with the punch packed from the lings as well? I mean, I feel like a lot of times you're almost setting them up to take a hatchery only to punish.
Yeah, well, I think that is. I think that is the idea, right? Is you're going to have that extra larva, and he has about 40 extra gas, which isn't quite a Scourge pair, but it you'll get it a little bit quicker. Of course, there is the travel time, but if you can keep him kind of on his back foot here as Hero, and you get any extra gas, right? You only would have to mine out of the gas that's at your natural for like 10 seconds to catch up on gas. You know, that's literally it. Like, he will catch up on gas after 10 seconds of mining at that natural. So I feel like the window for action is like coming in 30 seconds or so.
Yeah, well, let's see what happens in that moment. The Scourge come out. It just seems like even though it's a small gas lead, it should be enough, especially with like a set of Scourge, that maybe you can just kind of win and what would have been a more basic engagement. There's, timing attacks like this are so subtle, and they basically just didn't exist in the early days because we didn't have the kind of nuance we have now. So let's see what happens here.
Yeah, some more Scourge are popping out right now. The Scourge hitting a bit better for Action. I think Action has a slight advantage here. I think he's actually just about to win the game. Maybe. More Scourge coming out. Some really good control. Look at that by Action, picking off some Scourge there. It's
He's
4
on the run
against 2,
from
is
these,
it not?
It's 6. Oh, no, I'm sorry. He selected all of them. It should be 4 against 2. I believe that's correct. And now, a little bit of a misclick there, but he is now just dealing damage down onto these drones, which is just going to pile up. Now, there's no workers mining gas here, at least in the main. I think there may be some at the natural, but this is game.
Wow.
That's it. GG.
Well, there's your gas first, man. He hits exactly his window, simply has more, and wins the game.
Yeah, and I think that's literally like a 20-second window or something like that.
Yeah.
I would love a Zerg expert to weigh on this. I don't understand why people just don't always do that. I just feel like, isn't that better if you can hold off any kind of ling pressure early?
So
obviously, if it's like a very early pool, maybe you die. But didn't Hero, was it a gas and hatch gas and pool on 12?
Yeah,
or was it a 9 pool?
I forget exactly what supply was at, but if you look at, I think if it was hatch first, you just can't do that. But yeah, against pool first, when you went gas first, it feels like that. How do you prevent that? Because I think in theory what Hero was trying to do, get that, because again, you catch up on gas in 10 seconds of mining at the natural, but the window is so tight that you won't get that time.
And how obvious is it when it's even happening?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, would you look at that and be like, oh no, you took your gas like, way earlier, and then take the fight? I think it's only after everything dies you go, wait a minute. I don't know. Problems for ZVZ players to figure out Not my circus, not my monkeys, man. Good luck, Zergs out there. We're going to go to the map retro for game number 2 and see if we can get this 1-1 or if Action's going to close us out.
You're so funny, Tastosis.
I'm glad you like that one, Artosis.
I love that, okay, because excuse me, it's like there's some ZVZ build that you and I are looking at in our Terran and Protoss brains. We're like, well, that looks too strong. Okay, well, not my monkeys, not my circus. Good luck, Zergs.
Yeah. Well, that's up to you guys.
We have our own problems to figure out.
Yeah, that's right. If you came here from Insight, well, guess what? You're not going to get any. Going on into game 2. Yeah, let's see if we have any more interesting plays like this. I feel like it was a couple of ASL seasons ago that we really saw the rise of this, which was like very quick gas plays, and they became more and more commonplace. It might have even been Action who was the first guy that started doing that. Does that sound right?
It could be. It could be. I'm not entirely sure about it, but it feels like Action definitely knows what he's doing in Zerg vs. Zerg. Because he's always the guy where, like, I look at his style in the other matchups, and historically in StarCraft 1, aggressive Zerg players have generally been better at Zerg vs. Zerg, right? So, like, basically anyone who specializes in late game and Zerg vs. Terran specifically, historically has done more poorly in Zerg vs. Zerg, but that's not the case for Action. It feels like he strategically is always on top of things. And look at him, gas first again. You know what, Tastosis, if he wins this, we're right. He did figure it out. ZVZ's done.
We were right. This is the whole matchup solved, and it's really just going to come down to, like, can you get gas even earlier than this? This is the only way to beat it.
Yeah. it's going to be like, well, is 4 gas a thing? No. It's 6 gas, okay?
No.
We figured it out. It's 6 gas.
You get a really quick gas here, then you go to your natural and take that gas and take all the guys' mighty minerals and send them to that.
Oh, my God. That's when it evolves to just 2 lings on each side. That's all you can afford.
That's right. So whoever wins that, the other guy has to leave the game. So Hero, his pool's done. I think it's 9 lings being made here. We have the reverse situation for Overlord Scouting, where Hero is going to come in right away and see what's going on. Action's pool is about to be done. It looks like he will have 6 or 3 larvae banked up, so 6 Zerglings to hatch.
Yeah, and
does it make any sense that a larva becomes an egg? Is that like, does that make any sense at all?
Okay, so yeah, larvas turn into cocoons basically. Like calling it an egg is probably wrong. Like maybe it should be called Zerg cocoon. Right?
Okay. Yeah, I was going to say, can it really be an egg?
They use cocoons for the guardians, right? Those are cocoons. But
yes,
lurkers
they do, yeah.
And the thing is that is a stage in a bug's life, right? Like bugs start as larvae and then turn into like cocoons or wrap themselves up or whatever to change their.
But not eggs.
Not eggs. Those aren't eggs. Eggs are what are laid. So really, the larva should be the eggs.
It's like a Zerg's breakfast, like the omelet turns back into the egg. It's like, oh, well, okay, this is just a Zerg thing then. Yeah, just wanted to check in on that. Hero's got the contain at the bottom of the ramp. Action has a really good little curved line here, which makes it tough for any Zerglings from Hero to attack in without getting double damage from another Ling.
Mm-hmm.
And we're going into 1-base play on both sides. Will Action be forced to make a second hatch in his main? I mean, 1 Ling actually gets out. How funny is that?
I think that was some miss micro there by Action, but he didn't get speed last game, did he? Or am I crazy? I felt like he didn't get speed in the previous game, and that's why he had the.
I think, yeah, I think it. Well, I don't believe he did, or he would have sent those out. Or maybe the idea in the last game was he gets the gas a little bit sooner, shows speed, so you think you can get away with more than you can. I'm not sure.
Maybe.
But he never sent the Lings out on the map, too. That's an important thing to note. I kind of thought he was going to have speed Lings and mutas come out, and that was the idea. But I guess instead it's to bank up enough mutas and Scourge that you could snowball a fight.
And one thing to mention is there is no second hatchery this game, so it is certainly a different build from Action. He comes down the ramp and actually kills all the Lings, and you have to make a sunken here. Yeah, immediately a creep colony starts there for Hero, but this This is going to be dangerous. Like, he's
Yeah,
hitting right when you need to use your larva for mutas. So, like, he starts the mutas, but that means it's going to be 4 lings and a morphing sunken against a ton of zerglings from action.
I mean, you know, with the Sunken Colony not done yet, the punish is going to be very, very, very damaging here. He already takes out 1 drone. He's going to go for another. 2 have been killed off. He's going to try to dive onto the 3rd, and he gets that. And the mutas hatch, but now there's such a small number of workers here, and the second base is being created here for action. I mean, this is so bad. 3 drones mining minerals, 2 on gas, Tastosis. 5 total.
Yeah. Again, like, the sharpest timing, like, ever from action. I can't believe how well he has this mapped out right now. I told you that action was going to win at the beginning of the day, Tasteless. I told you that.
You were right.
I told you.
I know, I'm so embarrassed.
Oh,
Tastosis.
Tasteless. Oh, you don't get it like I get it.
He is like, I mean, this is so dominant. And especially when you're on 1 hatch, like, it's such a headache for the Zerg because you only have larva incrementing out 1 at a time. So it's like, is this larva going to be a Scourge or a Muta or Zerglings or a drone?
Yeah.
Or even an Overlord, right? And so it's like, when you get behind, it's so hard to recover.
This looks impossible. The fact that Action just started the gas at his natural, he's going to have that additional hatchery. Like, Hero's just building up a mute account. You are going to see him attack, and he'll rally and Scourge behind very likely. I think he's just going to try to win, but he doesn't have more mutas. So there's no real opportunity here. I think that basically when you get this second gas mining, it's going to be pure Scourge for Action, and he's just going to run over Hero.
Yeah, I mean, I think Hero has to try to maybe take a fight. I mean, the math is pretty obvious that when you're down this many drones and you are behind a full hatchery, I mean, the production, it just spikes out better in every direction here for Action. Keep in mind that there's no defense, and so maybe Hero taking a risk by coming into the side, he could mow down all the drones, try to take a fight, and after the reset, try to catch up from there. He does kill an Overlord. This is a kind of a cool approach here. But when you kill that Overlord, you're going to give away your position. And so that allows Action to dart out on the map and kill his own Overlord. And so the map is becoming a more ambiguous place on both sides. The mutas are going to come in. Could he try to snipe a drone? He does.
Oh, man. Yeah, nice snipe there, and he is microing really well, but it's just there's so many Scourge that are catching up. We have the moving shot from Action as well. Hero doing his best, but I do believe Action is about to just kill him.
Yeah, Action just has too much. The final muta is going to go down, and that will be GG as Action goes with a very easy and very fast 2-0.
That might be the most straightforward Zerg vs. Zerg series that we have had on ASL, where one player just like had it, knew what he was doing exactly, and destroyed his opponent.
Yeah, absolutely. And so we've got Action versus Sharp coming up next. That's going to be a lot of fun. Both these guys are looking to be in great shape. Action, by the way, just putting a little footnote on this match. I want to really watch this guy's ZVZs in the seasons and years to come because he just seems to be getting better and better. And he's showing a lot of very cool, smart ideas. Outside of the wackiness of like a second extractor somewhere weird, he just seems to know how to set up prep and especially micro very well. So, you know, we've seen some of these guys like Mini as well, where he seemed to be good, didn't quite find his place, or even Snow later on become these absolute powerhouse killers. Same could be true for Action in the ZVZ matchup. Guys, short break. We'll be right back with the final best of 3, Sharp versus Action.
나를 부르는 수많은 단어들.
페이커?
불사대마 데빌형.
하지만 나를 가장 기쁘게 하는 건
상혁이야!
팬들과 소통할 때 나는 살아있음을 느낀다.
혹시 나랑 1대1 가능? 피지컬은 나쁘지 않는데 운영이 좀 아쉽네.
선수들과 직접 소통할 수 있는 개인 방송과 구독자 Q&A까지 아프리카TV 팀페이지
Welcome back, everybody. It's time to close this out here with our final best of 3, and this is going to be a good one. Sharp versus Action.
Yeah, I feel like this could have taken place anytime in the past 10 years. It's just two of the stronger players, guys that are not quite championship level, but absolutely round of 8 level. I'm going to love this because they both play like a pretty standard game. I do think, like I mentioned at the start, I think Action is favored here. I think he's a little bit better Zerg versus Terran than Sharp is Terran versus Zerg. If Sharp wins, it's going to be in the early and mid game. If it goes long, I think Action beats pretty much everybody. Like, he's so good at the Defiler endgame.
Yeah, this is going to be a fun one. We're going to start this out on Invader for this TVZ. Again, Sharp and Action played so well today. Obviously, these matchups, they're both going in against each other now. Very different, but this should be a fun one. I think it's a tough one to call as well, Artosis. Do you have a favorite looking at these two?
Yeah, got to go with Action. We are going to start this last match. Here we go.
I'm like, Artosis, before we start, do you know the name of the Defiler hero unit in the map editor? Go.
The Devouring one, Tastosis. The Devouring one.
Okay, well done.
All right, we're going to have
We
Sharp.
did the cheer there at the start. I thought somebody was yelling outside my window. I'm like, oh my God, it's the middle of the night over here. Why are people screaming in my neighborhood?
Yeah.
Oh, it's right. It's the cast.
That would really scare me, man, in my little rural neighborhood. Someone outside my garage door yelling. I'm like, wait, what the hell? Oh, man. Guys, before we get this started, we do want to once again mention the Patreon. It's patreon.com/ASL English. Thank you so much for your support over the years. We have a new year of ASL starting as of today. Of course, you're seeing the wildcard match. A wildcard match takes place before even the qualifiers so that the winner doesn't have to play the qualifiers. So it will be a little bit before the actual ASL proper begins, but it is a great time to check out that Patreon.
Yeah, we do have downtime even in the middle of ASL, but if you're seeing this, you know, it's good to get something out for you guys early on, but we do have a while before the actual layout of ASL is going to be ready. So just something to tide you over. Again, the support on Patreon is really appreciated, so please consider doing that. If you can, sign up for a year. It really is helping us keep the history of StarCraft alive. The oldest and original esport, Artosis.
I know it, and honestly, it holds up so well. Like, I am loving Brood War right now, Tasteless. Like, I'm playing all the time, thinking about it all the time, watching all the matches. It's just fantastic. We have a great map pool this season. I did do a breakdown of that if people want to check it out on my YouTube. And I know you've been putting out a ton of StarCraft 1 history content. If people are feeling the need to fill the gap between this and when ASL starts, you can check out our YouTubes there, Tasteless TV and Artosis TV. Right?
Yeah, there's a lot of content for us out there. You can join us on our streams, or like Artosis is saying, we're both doing stuff on our YouTube. So if you watch our casts here, you can find us in other places on the internet.
That's right.
I know with the way the internet is, we're all kind of fragmented all over the place, but our content is there if you want to dig deep enough.
Absolutely. So we're on Invader. You know, it is a 2-player map. I'm really interested to see how Sharp wants to play it. Like, it looks like he's just going to go for a Barracks expansion, which is standard. We see here that Action is going for like a 2-hatch play. Most likely it will be 2-hatch Muta. I mean, he is someone that mixes in 2-hatch Lurker to his own detriment. I don't think I've ever seen him win with the build order, but he will mix it in from time to time, which makes him a little bit dangerous, I guess. And yeah, Sharp just trying to...
Is this a... Oh, I'm sorry, Artosis. We haven't cast together in a while. And you just like start talking, and I go, you know what? I just jumped in. I was on this map. I whenever I look at it, TVZ in general, I always think about where can the Zerg safely expand.
Yeah.
And it seems like your third is a safe place to take, and then the bottom left. But it doesn't feel like there are many safe locations for Zerg. So it's not a map that you can easily just mass expand everywhere like Vermeer and get away with it.
Yeah, you're definitely right. It is exactly as you said. It should be that third base location, and then probably bottom left. That's where most people go ahead and take their fourth. Hydra, Lurker, Defiler seems to be the only thing people do on this map. And so, like, that's how you get additional bases, right? Hydra, Lurker, Defiler is kind of like this unkillable comp once you get to it. And so then you can just kind of take like that kind of pocket base and maybe even top right or something like that if you've got enough defilers all over the place. But, like I mentioned, I think it's not going to... If it gets that far anyways, if we get to the point where Action has a fourth base up and mining, that's where I start to really lose faith in Sharp's ability to finish the game.
That actually is a really good explanation, by the way. The Hydra Lurker comp, just because you actually have to have like kind of a fighting comp versus a keep away composition. I like that idea. That makes a lot more sense now. I think in my mind, I still think Zerg have to default into like Ling, Lurker, Muta. But yeah, you're right. There's a way to kind of play a map, however. And it's why these different maps make for such exciting different games. You kind of force certain players to play different styles, and that can really change the whole meta and the way we understand everything.
Yeah. And if you look at how Terran expands as well, when you go for like this really heavy unit comp of Hydra, Lurker, Defiler, like, let's say Terran takes the third normally, or the pocket third. The base after that gets really tough, because if you're playing against Hydra, Lurker, Defiler, you kind of... If the game is going long and you're not at the Zerg's throat killing them, you have to go tanks. And then it's like, well, how do you split your tanks? Because the whole Hydra, Lurker, Defiler army can move from one location to another in seconds. So there's no great place to sit siege tanks. Whereas if you have a map like Polypoid or Vermeer, you kind of have a more central area you can defend. Here, it's in different directions, so it gets really difficult for Terran at that point.
You can see the Lings are able to track. This is actually kind of crazy. How deep is he going to dive in there? All right. He turns around. I was like, this is wild. I guess he was going to try to do anything to slow these Marines coming down. This is a pretty quick beeline. It seems like once players figured out to go under and never over onto the high ground on this map, you can get there so fast. I see drones being pulled. Artosis, this is so bad right now. We know that these eggs are going to hatch momentarily with mutas coming out, but like, this is a lot of infantry. The medics are already here healing up. The post-stim.
Yeah. Action was too greedy here. He needed to make 2 sunken colonies, and he just didn't. So it looks like Sharp might gain the most gigantic advantage. He is not targeting the hatch. Instead, he brings the fire bat up, and dude, that's you don't.
Dude.
Yeah, no, that's game over. That's Sharp winning game 1 right there.
Yeah, this is the most elementary loss I think we've ever had in an ASL.
Yeah.
This is like, okay, it's like Tastosis plays Zerg on the ladder. Plays matches, and I go, all right, I got it, guys. I need to make my sunks earlier. I learned it. We never see a loss like that ever in ASL. You don't even see that in the high ranks on ladder.
It's kind of rare. It's a very standard 2-Rax Academy push from Sharp. You have to make 2 sunks against that, unless you have like enough speedlings to actually make them turn around or kill the army. Like, you have to make the sunkens, and he was trying to be greedy. If you don't make the sunkens and your mutas get out before they get there, you can hold it and kill the army and feel good. But I mean, that's a blunder. How else do you explain that? It's just like, that you should have made those sunks and you didn't, and you lose the game, and maybe you don't get that seed now.
Yeah, I mean, that's a pretty haunting loss. Honestly, just a humiliating loss. It's going to be tough, I think, for Action to even get his head in the game here in game 2. That's embarrassing. Look, I mean, when you see Sharp come in on the map, he's not trying to win the game with that. He's trying to force 2 sunken colonies. Then he gets there, and it's like, oh, you left your front door unlocked? And he goes in there and steals your TV. That's what happens.
Yeah.
So we're going to go to La Campanella. I hope we can get a game 3. I'm really worried for Action. After playing just a stellar ZVZ, it just seems like he really wasn't, focused, wasn't honestly respecting the threats. Those threats are just part of the build order. They're not intended to ever even be used. It's like, okay, well, if he doesn't do this, you'd win. But, of course, in pro matches, that never happens. Well, it happens here. Let's see what happens as we go into game number 2, Action versus versus Sharp, excuse me. Okay, we have both players hugging the right side of the map. We've had a lot of this today already here on this map, and this is going to be no different as we go into our third best of 3. Sharp on the bottom, Action on the top. And, yeah, I hope Action can play a better game. I mean, sometimes you just have blowouts, but I would like this to be more of a back and forth.
For sure. For sure. It's you don't want to see a game like that. Like that feels like a waste after some of the great games that we've seen already tonight. It's like, is that how we're going to go? Like, you just not going to make your sunken colonies? It's just such a weird thing, man. It's like not making a turret in Terran versus Protoss or something, or not making a bunker, right? It's like, well, come on. Like, you know that you can just die to this to literally anyone. Like, an A ranker could have won that game. You know? You move out at the right time, and if they don't have the sunkens and you get there, the game is over. And it's like a two-player map.
Funny thing
it's disappointing.
Yeah, we've all laddered, right? And you just have these moments where, like, every once in a while you'll attack it and go, like, oh, all right, well, GG, I won that one. You know, I don't know what was happening over on my opponent's side, but here we are. Only it happened to Action, man. Brutal.
Yeah, you saw him shaking his head after that, so he kind of gets it. He kind of knows. Now, was that an overpool? I think it might have been. But yeah, that was an overpool. Anyways, that means that Action is expecting like an 8 racks or a BBS type play here. That's really kind of the only time that you see that type of like overpool opener, I think. You know, it's not as good economically, but it can. I think it's probably the best counter to like a forward 8 racks type of situation. But Sharp's not doing that. He's just walling.
Yeah, how comfortable or uncomfortable is it for the Zerg to play versus a normal opener here?
Versus a normal opener, well, your hatchery is a little bit later. Your drone count is a little bit lower. So, yeah, it definitely doesn't feel good. But you can get, like, a very quick layer with this. And that can throw Terran off. Like, if you try to do anything like extra marine production and stuff, it can be really difficult to get, like, extra barracks, right? Like, Sharp oftentimes goes 3 racks before his turrets, because you have to kind of like decide how many barracks you want and get them down before you start missile turrets, or nothing works. So this will force the turrets a lot earlier, and if you were making heavy marines early on, you might not be able to afford the amount of barracks that you want. So it can mess up Terran in that way, but that's basically what you're looking for at this point, I think, anyways.
Well, that layer has been spotted. And Sharp's going to be just staying back. Obviously, Sharp is having, the day of his life here in the wildcard match. He's looked very strong and is getting these free wins here as we go into this. When you go for a super fast layer like this, I mean, I always think mutas, but, can you do anything weird with this early layer like we're seeing here?
I mean, you could go, like I mentioned before, Action, sometimes to his own detriment, goes for, like, a very fast, like, 2-hatch lurker play. You're against a wall, so something like that could end up working. And, if this happens to be an eBay build, then it becomes stronger. It doesn't look like it. It looks like this is a 1-Racks Academy build, which is actually the perfect counter to what Action is doing. And the fact that the SCV is still alive, like, everything is Sharp favored right now.
I guess what I was thinking with weird stuff is, like, if you're getting gas this fast, could you even do, like, a lurker drop or something weird like that with the... how early you get this, or is there just not enough gas in the game for something like that?
Well, you can. Like, if you go 2-hatch lurker, there's the question of that. And generally what will happen is you'll find out it's 2-hatch lurker, you'll bank scans for a little bit, and then you'll scan the natural. And if you see a second gas, then you know that they are completely all in, and you block drops and you build an extra bunker, and you should be good. So it's like 2-hatch lurker is honestly a very bad build. It's like just pure sneakery. Like, if you have information, you hold it, and the Zerg is way behind. So it's like, literally, you can only win through tricks.
So you're just hoping your opponent makes a mistake or something like that. Well, in this game, it's going to be that 2-hatch muta tech. Mm-hmm. We see that second gas being made. He's banked up 400, soon to be about 600 gas for those mutas to come out here. It's going to be up to Sharp to have the turrets come out just in the nick of time, which, usually at this level of play always happens. But at least you're able to force the Terran to do that and then try to play a control game in the middle of the map.
Yeah. We might see, like, really super heavy muta from Action since he's getting them so quickly. The natural here is very hard to defend. Eventually you do mine out that small patch. It's never mined out when the first mutas get there, and you can get turrets behind. But the natural is really hard. There's so much room for mutas to micro back there. And then he also has to defend up here at the depots. You see he's making a bunker. And like I mentioned, he's only been able to afford 2 barracks here before he starts his missile turrets. So he's going to have to go really heavy on the missile turrets. We might have to see Sharp make like 12 missile turrets this game to make sure he doesn't die.
Yeah, you got to make sure you have enough. If you have any kind of weak point, things can fall apart pretty fast. I love the 2 missile turrets over here in the middle. And the turrets kind of covering all this. There's only one SCV over here on the corner. The Marines are going to stim come up and drive that back. And from here, it's really a game of just making sure that the mutas can never come back in and really do anything. Are there turrets? Yeah, there are. Down here covering this base in the back. Even one SCV to make a turret if need be behind this.
Yeah, he will make those as well. Like this is, like I mentioned, this is a really hard spot to defend. You can see those mutas already destroying the first turret super easily. They definitely need to pick off that SCV. Look at that. So sad. Already many SCVs dead, a turret gone. Hard to mine here.
Yeah, you could see especially those 2 patches on the side really can't get covered well. It's funny, all these expansions can look kind of the same to the average viewer, but actually places where you can both make turrets and not completely screw up all of your SCVs mining, it can be tough. And so now, effectively Terran's mining from about 5 patches instead of the full base. The mutas are continuing to accumulate out here. He's at a very high number, so one shot can take an SCV out. We're seeing that here now.
Yeah, there's some scary things going on right now for Sharp. Now, obviously, Action doesn't have a great economy at home. He is getting that Queen's Nest, and you can see Sharp has started his factory. He did add a 3rd barracks after his missile turrets, which is not super common because it just kind of like slows that factory down. The factory is kind of late. But I think it's okay this game. Like, the Hive is not going to be so fast that Sharp has no counterplay.
Okay, the mutas come in again, and they're actually taking these SCVs out now. I thought Sharp was going to be in a better shape overall here, but it seems like neither side of his bases are just that well covered. Now the refinery's being hit. Keep in mind, there's no SCVs mining there, and there's no refinery at the natural, so this could be subtle, but the reality is this could really add up in damage. I mean, you can't even make medics if you run out of gas.
Yeah, that's so true. He does come out into the middle, and this is to force the mutas out of his base. He's taking too much damage from those mutalisks, and you know what? Action just turns on the SCVs again. So he's making mass sunken at home right now. This is a great counter to what Sharp is doing. Dude, I think Action's just going to take this game number 2.
Yeah, I think you might be right. I think the Sunks are going to finish in time. 3 is a lot more than 2 in a game of Brood War with Medic Marine. And now he's going to try to dive in. A 4th Sunk's about to finish. Mutas and Lurkers soon to be in the back. The Mutas come up. Are there enough Marines with all this here remaining? I don't see drones being pulled. I do see the Lurkers coming along.
Oh, man. And Sharp is going to be able to just barely take down Action, it looks like. Like, his mutas were, like, seconds late. Because when they started on the Marines, he had to start because the last Sunken was dying, but they weren't clumped. They were actually spread, so he didn't get big shots off. And he ended up losing a ton of mutas. He was barely putting damage out. You need them back just slightly before that to make sure you hold.
So the muta count's been very much so thinned out. So just a handful of turrets can hold off what the mutas are at right now. I don't know if that's been remade just yet. There's actually a Queen's Nest here, and maybe we'll see a Hive in a second. 6 mutas are going to come down. A fairly naked main base. I guess 2 turrets way in the back. But when these Marines come up here, I think it's, 2 Lurkers stacked in the natural. Is that correct? Or is it 3, Artosis?
I think it's 2. Oh, it is 3. It is 3.
Oh, it's 3.
Well, if he does a good spread, maybe. I don't know. That can be dangerous, though.
Yeah, there's nothing more badass than killing 3 Lurkers like that, and nothing that makes you look stupider and worse at the game than when you stem and go in and lose it. So
yeah, it's a daily battle
we'll see
for
what
me,
he actually goes
for sure.
Looking like a hero or looking like a fool.
Yeah.
When the Lurkers try to come out, there's a spotter Marine there. So, oh, he actually has a drop ship. Look at this. He's hiding it pretty well, too.
This is super sneaky.
The drop ship, this is really smart. Well, he might just be able to just go inside the main and circumvent the lurkers entirely.
This is like a high brain move right here because he reduced the mutas so much. There's not a lot of vision for action. He's really done a great job of hiding this. And, like, you don't expect this. No one makes dropship first. It doesn't, like, the mutas can just destroy it. It never happens. So the fact that he has this now, look at this. He catches the rest of the army in there, but that little army is what's going to deal damage.
He sees a Defiler mount. He's going to go for the drones instead. He guns down, I think it was 4 total. The mutas are going to come in here. They can clean up, but remember, Zerg is not working with a lot of drones in this game, so getting that many workers is a pretty big deal. And again, Terran is on, Zerg is on 2 hatches here. Even seeing the Defiler mound there is a pretty big deal. So, I mean, this is becoming a pretty tight fight. Zerg can tango with the Terran up to a point, but if you drop too many mutas, lurkers, or the Defiler, you really don't have a lot to work with against a really powerful 2-base Terran.
Look at this. He actually kills more of the mutas as well. These are great trades for Sharp. He needs to get rid of those mutas because he's actually doing a great move here. He's going Spider Mines. So, like, this push, he knows that this is the only chance. So he is setting up Spider Mines, and, like, if your only chance is, like, a Ling, Lurker, Defiler all in, mines are the best counter to that possible.
I think there's an Overlord just above the screenshot here that can see one of the mines.
Ooh, that's big.
So if he moves forward, can that Overlord on the right see that? I don't actually know.
I think it's just out of vision of the mine. Just barely, I believe.
Because if you don't... Oh, yeah, he doesn't see it. He just went to the mine.
GG.
GG. Okay, there it is. Wow.
Wow. That is a gigantic victory there for Sharp. He has to be so happy. This was such a stacked tournament, this wildcard match. But that means he gets a seed into the round of 16, which is unbelievably valuable for ASL.
You love to see it. Again, a very exciting set of games from him. I mean, every single game, he looked really good. I love that dropship, by the way.
Yeah.
Had Action not been on top of that, you would have just won. And I don't think I ever remember a 2-base game with 1 dropship, like a push out like that. That's a first for me. We're all still learning this game, guys. We are far from done unpacking Brood War. And I'll tell you what, Action had one of the most impressive ZVZs ever, and then had a really disappointing ZVZ back there. And again, humiliating loss on Invader.
Yeah, that game was actually a real disappointment, unfortunately. Action, his Zerg vs. Terran was just not up to snuff here today, unfortunately. You know, I wish he had done it a little bit better, made the 2 Sunks. I wish that game his mutas had gotten back a little bit quicker, but Sharp, like, capitalized perfectly. Honestly, I think he played, like, flawlessly in that last game.
So those are our results for today, guys. If you're just now catching this on YouTube, remember, this is not Group A or anything. This is the wild card match. So Season 17 has not started yet. There is going to be downtime before you see the group stages and all that. So if you see this and are like, wait a minute, where the hell's the rest of the tournament? Give it some time. It'll be there soon.
That's right. But a very fun wild card. I'm glad that we were able to cast this time.
Yeah, this was a lot of fun.
Well, let's have a word with today's winner. Sharp, hello. Sharp, you need to tell us a bit about what happened there. What a day. You managed to score a perfect victory, outclassing your opponents and making it into the round of 16 group selection. What's on your mind right now? Well, for starters, it's been a while since I got a round of 16 seed, so I'm happy things went well in today's wildcard match. It seems a fitting reward for the practice I'd put in. You've shown some very bold and decisive play today. As we can see on camera now are your colleagues from the StarCraft University League who showed up to support you today. They sat down and they've been cheering you on throughout the matches. Did their support give you an extra boost to do well? Well, my StarCraft University colleagues are always there to cheer me on. They're a great help. They support me and come to watch my matches. And they themselves seem to be enjoying their StarCraft University life. If we get back to the gameplay side of things again, you've become a lot more daring with your play. It seems you've decided to add some more aggression to your style. Well, is this something you've been doing recently, or what other direction do you take in your practice? Well, I thought about this a lot, and it seemed that I've always been more restrained and safe in my play, and I wondered if adding aggression would help. And now that I did well today, it seems to have been the right call. Well, it's really good to see that there is this mental effort going into the direction you take yourself in as a player in terms of playstyle. It looked really good, and I'm definitely looking forward to seeing how this translates into the upcoming season proper. Well, I agree. It used to be you would go for a decisive move, like one decisive move, but now this is almost like bringing yourself up to propose to somebody. You would think about it and give yourself this mental fortitude. Well, he is married. He got married. He didn't used to be so bold, man. But now look at him. You've become ever so decisive, Sharp, haven't you? Well, naturally, my wife is always there for me, right by my side, always supporting me. Well, now you've managed to skip the round of 24 altogether, and we'll be going straight to the round of 16 of ASL 17. We'll keep watching you realize your dreams as a player. Could you tell us what to expect from you in the near future? Well, first, I would like to thank my colleagues for showing up to support me, as well as all my fans, both here and online. Also, my StarCraft University students who are watching this this broadcast. Well, most of all, this coming season, I'm resolved to show it differently. Fix whatever is lacking. And I would also like to thank True, Shine, and Barracks for helping me prepare ahead of today's games. Well, once again, congratulations, and we're looking forward to seeing you perform in the round of 16. Well done. Thank you.
All right, guys, thank you so much for joining us here. Here is the ASL Season 17 round of 16 seed.
Yeah, of course, Sulky being the champion and Minigan in second place will have those higher seeds for that group selection in the round of 16, but Rush and Sharp will be joining them. A perfect racial distribution, especially having two Terrans in there. Couldn't get better than this.
This was fun. We're not normally able to do the wild card match, but we had time to do it this time, guys. So get out there, spread the word. ASL Season 17 is coming. The official dates have not been announced yet. Even we don't know exactly when they're going to be, but they're soon. They're soon, and the qualifiers are coming. So it's going to be a really exciting time. ASL, StarCraft Brood War, it does age like a fine wine, and so this is going to be a very, very fun season to see what's stayed the same and what's changed and what's different.
Yeah, I'm really incredibly excited for this season. Can't wait to see the results of those qualifiers as well. And yeah, man, this has been fantastic. I'm happy that we're back doing it. I know it'll be a few weeks at least before the first round of ASL, and we get to do this cast again, Tastosis. But despite my tiredness and your, sleepiness because it's getting late there, this is one of the highlights of my year every year.
Yeah, I love doing it. It's good to be back. Again, guys, a little bit of downtime before ASL Season 17 does start. Be on the lookout for the dates when it's officially announced. We love you guys. And again, if you could, please go to patreon.com/ASL English and throw us some support. We would really appreciate it. We couldn't do it without you guys.
Yeah, you guys have been fantastic. So thank you so much for that. And I guess we'll just see you on the beginning of the next season.